Well, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. So let's begin our journey into your good work by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was completely taking over, changing our lives. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you approach things today?
Great question. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I at the time had Healing Art Studios, which was my dream. I had been building them over 8 years. We had just opened our fourth location. This was in Northern California. We had an amazing community and team, and the pandemic hit, and we were restricted from gathering in groups and touching humans, which is what we did. What we did. And so I thought when we were closed, I was like, what can I do to bring healing to people and also community and connection together while we're under the confines of working from home? And so I decided to bring forth something that was very personal to me that I had not shared within my studio community, which was microdosing and working with mushrooms. I had had incredible healing benefits personally from mushrooms, including healing a grand mal seizure disorder. And so I thought, let me bring this forth and put a group together to help support people through the pandemic. This was back in November of 2020. And from the start, it was really fascinating. It was really healing. And it's just grown and grown and grown till to brings us to today.
So let me ask you this. If we got to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis, I'm going to put you in front of 12-year-olds at career day, and one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you answer them?
I help people grow, heal, and live the best lives they can.
What did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream job?
At 12, I wanted to be a doctor and I also wanted to be a spy. But
Ooh,
doctor seemed more realistic.
yeah, that's cool. So, where were you born and raised? Are you from Florida?
I'm from outside Philly,
Okay,
Philadelphia, yep,
okay.
Pennsylvania. Hmm.
There's a lot of similarities, I would think. I haven't been to Philly, but the way that Kansas City is, kind of that hardworking, sports loving, grounded, blue collar kind of gig vibe, that seems like we're kind of akin.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm so grateful I grew up there. I had the most amazing teachers, mentors, coaches growing up, just the most authentic, real neighbors. Yeah, neighborly place to grow up.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What was it about your childhood? What were the foundational elements that made you want to be a spy, get into medicine, and then to eventually get into healing modalities that you're into now? How did all of these things get harvested and evolve into who you are?
Well, somehow the spy fascination has just metabolized into a love of police and detective shows.
Yeah.
And I just kept that there. Um, but when I was 7, I lost my father very unexpectedly. He committed suicide. And after that, I was exceptionally close with him. He was absolutely one of my like soul kin in this lifetime. And so to be without him at such a young age, looking forward to my own life was led me into exploring healing, spirituality, psychology in a quest to heal and also understand, I think, intellectually for many years. And so I thought I wanted to go into psychiatry or neurology. I started having seizures. I always had severe headaches as a child that then I think bloomed into seizures when I was a teenager and into adulthood. So I was really drawn to, like a lot of guides, heal myself and my own circumstances. And then coming through that, I am now able to support people in the same way.
My dad passed in '08, and he's been gone for a while, and I'm curious, do you have any visits? Do you ever have any does that happen to you that often?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, my practice with mushrooms enabled a level and degree of healing that I didn't even think was capable, to be
Yeah.
honest. I studied, I went to lots of therapy, I did lots of reading, lots of intellectually understanding. Um, it, but it never, I remember going to talk therapy as a child and coming out and just feeling exhausted, like being in the story of the thing. And it wasn't until I started studying intuition medicine and somatic practices, energy work, I started to build a capacity where I could feel his presence more. I could sense when he was around at pivotal times in my life, he would drop in to give reassurance. And then when I started practicing with mushrooms, mushrooms, among many, many other gifts, have the ability to really thin the veil. I think a lot of us hold a lot of density, grief, traumatic energy from our lineage that kind of our loved ones are always around us. It's just us having to do the work to kind of attune ourselves to open to
Yes.
them and be able to notice them and hear them. And it was through mushroom practice that I was able to, I could feel him more presently. And then when I began to step up my work with mushrooms from microdosing to ceremonial dosing, I got to sit with him and see him and speak to him and have him answer questions and have him show me in a truer embodied sense what he was feeling in his life that led him to make the choice that he did. And so it was a way to heal from that and kind of come to peace with that in a way that I could have never accessed in any other way.
Were you seeking that cathartic closure? Was that huge for you?
I think I was seeking it, but I wasn't seeking it because I didn't even know it was possible.
Sure. Yeah.
To be honest, yeah.
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 There's a level of clairvoyance that goes into kind of seeing and feeling the other side. And there's this popular misconception, I think, that people are just born with it. They have this special ability, but it's more of just working this malleable part of 80% of our minds that is dormant most of the time, right? And getting to a point where it's almost like a muscle in your body and you can make that receptive. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think we all come in with certain gifts. It's just spirit talks to us very differently depending on our own unique blueprint. We're all very
Yeah.
different. Some of us are very visual. Spirit will come and we'll just see things before they happen. We'll know things. Some people have gifts of telepathy. They just can speak without words
Yeah.
sometimes. Sometimes people are very somatically oriented. So you'll just have a gut feeling. You'll just know it. You'll feel a reaction in your body. You'll get tingles a lot
Yeah.
when something is true.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's definitely something we all have and something we can cultivate.
I think the universe sometimes just dumps a big, huge backpack of books in your lap for you to kind of go through. And the reason why I say that, about 3 weeks ago, my dad's anniversary was on the 31st. And I typically, it's been so long, it's not something that's hardcore on the radar, but for some reason this year it was a bit different. Later that day, I get a phone call from a gentleman in Florida, and he says, I have a picture of your dad when he was in the service, and I just went through a box and I found it, and he just calls me out of the blue. And yeah, so I called his sister who lives in New York, because they were from Brooklyn originally, and I'm like, told her what happened. She was like, he's reaching out, and it's weird how life sometimes, those kinds of things, and very obvious, yet how did this happen, right? And it just comes together in this confluence of the universe just having its own big bang moment with you.
Absolutely. The last few months, this keeps coming up over and over again in our community. Is lots of male relatives, especially fathers, grandfathers have been coming through in the last few months, and we've all been laughing because they make it so obvious. They love you to know it's them, and it's like that's just how they were in real life too.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, right.
I'm just gonna make this so obvious you can't miss it, and it's
Uh-huh.
unmistakable that it's coming from me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild. That's so wild. That now all the dots were connecting, but it connects in a different way by hearing that. So let me ask you this. In your journey in your life, in your evolution to who you are right now, who has been that inspirational force, that hero for you?
Oh my goodness. The first person that comes to mind is my guide. So she does not live in this earth realm, although she
Yeah.
can and has. Um, I've had so many people, but she's just been very, very present the last few days to me. So I'll bring her in. Um, in hindsight, and I think a lot of people have a curiosity around this, if this can be true for them too. So I'll expand it out. So I think in hindsight, my guide has always been there. It's very, very obvious. There's every sign and clue and thread that's there. But again, as I developed my own, the more I healed, the more I grew, the more I developed my own spiritual channel and connection, her presence in my life has become more of a clear channel when she just comes through, when she chooses to come through
Yeah,
and share and guide and kind of mentor and coach me through this lifetime, mostly in the service of others.
yeah. It's interesting when talking about this kind of clairvoyant realm. When I see interviews with like Mensa smart humans and they get asked the question of God, they say they don't even blink, without a doubt, unequivocally, however you want to quantify it, whether you want to quantify it in a Hindu or an Islam or a Western Christian, there is a God. It exists. And there's this lineage of lives that we've had. Like without a doubt, that's always the through line. There is a higher power and there is a spiritual journey we're on. What is your thought on all of that? How does that propel and keep the light going through your world?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the adventure
Yeah.
of life to me, is we're just here in this costume for this body and this go around, and
Mhm.
we're here intentionally to experience all that we can through this particular lifetime in this body. Um, which I love. It's so inspiring to think, and in my support of other people, and I work with a great range of ages, and I work with a lot of people over 70. And one of the things that's really common for them is to them to lament. They come to this great awareness and this great healing, and they're 83,
Yeah.
right? And they're like, but I'm 83. Like I spent my whole life waiting to get to this point, and now it's almost over. And I'm like, no, it's not. You're going to
Yeah.
be a baby again before you know it. And we get to take everything forward. And so it just gives an expansiveness and also a preciousness to life at the same time.
I'm around a lot of people right now that are getting ready to get to 50, and I see the panic in them. I see this level of like running towards this level of youth before they get to this point. I'm 53. I don't remember doing that. I think, like with this older woman you're talking about, I'm so busy dealing with all of the things that are a part of being in this reality right now that I haven't had the foresight to lament either the past or pontificate as to what's going to happen. Like it's like right now. So maybe at some point that's the real true, not in a bad sense, midlife crisis, but when you get to that point where you're like, all right, now it makes sense. I'm going to let the ocean just bowl me over for a minute so that I can just breathe and I can be relieved that I'm not holding the weight of the world back, right?
Acceptance is where it's at right now.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah,
Acceptance and adaptation. Yeah, I think people, my sense in people this year in particularly is people are feeling this immense pressure. There's an immense momentum of evolution right now, and it's very uncomfortable for people. It's almost like people have this pressure to do something, but they don't know what to do
yeah,
yet. And it's the pressure to allow, which is so contrary to our do society,
yeah.
of what to do next. And I think that's intensifying right now because we are really going to move forward in a new way in the coming years.
And I think two prongs on that proverbial fork of humanity right now is that COVID kind of put this mirror up in front of us, whether we want it there or not. Kind of this spiritual thing, this post rapture thing. You're going to be here. You better figure out what's going to be the most important for you, the people, the mission, what you want to do, and what you want to get out of it. And I also think when we look politically at what's going on, this democratic process, democracy, growing pains, I think there's these kind of air bubbles that are floating through the eternal liquid of our lives, and we're all trying to figure out that confluence coming together of personal and what we see in society.
Absolutely. Yeah. We often say this year, like the United States is in a psychedelic journey this year.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
We're
that's a good
seeing
way.
all the shadows. We're seeing everything we didn't want to look at, that we weren't ready to look at. It's all front and center, and now it's up to us to face it and work with the reality and the truth.
Yeah. And I think too, my son's on the spectrum, and I've always held very close to the notion that there are very few things that we can control. Of anything that I can control, his name is Miles, is how well I decide to love him and how well I decide to take care of that love. And that extends into relationships and spouses and everybody that's in your life. But those are the only things. And I think part of COVID was we aren't in control of all of these marionette strings that are pulling us around.
Indeed.
So
Indeed.
So let me ask you this. If you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Mm.
And it could be a ghost. It could be somebody that used to be here. I tend to go with now, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the first person that comes to mind we recently lost, who is Jane Goodall.
yeah,
And I think right now I so admire people like Jane Goodall, Dolly Parton is another one, who have held this vibration of generosity and love throughout their lives in the face of every challenge and every opposition. They found a way to work around it and
yeah.
keep going that I find so inspiring.
I'm listening to a book by Dolly Parton right now, and she's getting interviewed. And just I had no idea. I thought she had children and she didn't. And her life in the mountains of Tennessee, and she came from this huge lineage of kids, and how hard her dad worked, and how she always held true to accepting everyone, right? Just everyone in every phase of her life, and everything that you would think a country superstar would be anterior to in this world of like preconceived stereotypes. She broke and shattered all of them and continues to. It's and Jane Goodall too. I just at the beginning of the year, I've been trying to kind of surround myself with really positive figures. Like I read something on Fred Rogers, who he was amazing. And then Jane's just astounding, like how she got into this and how it's evolved and how she kind of have become this cultural figurehead without wanting to be it. It just happened by osmosis. It's amazing. They're wonderful people. And I think if more people would grab on to the humanity that still exists instead of lamenting what's gone, they're all here. I mean, Jane's influence will never go away as long as humans are on this planet. And Dolly's still here doing it. There's all these people that are here doing it now, you know? So,
Absolutely.
so let me ask you this. What is it that gets you up every day to do this work that you do? Because you're obviously, as you've talked about, there's all these deep and heavy things that are people trying to get over, whether it's generational trauma or it's just being alive on this planet in 2025. What is it that gets you up every day that gives you that energy to help others get to a better place and then still take care of your own soul?
Mm, I think hope and passion for possibility. That's just partly innate.
Yeah,
Partly came in with that, gratefully. But also what I've noticed, I've been in the healing arts now, it'll be 30 years this year. And I've noticed this amazing change happening. It kind of started quietly and is building and building, and now we're starting to kind of see the real shoots of it where people the last 30 years and beyond have been mostly hoping to manage life, like manage symptoms, manage they don't feel well or they don't feel well spiritually, they don't feel connected to themselves, their lives. But healing and all of our services came from a place of managing the status quo. And I'm noticing this huge shift in people where that's no longer good enough
yeah.
any longer. And they're like looking ahead and saying, I'm going to be around for another 40 years and I want more. And I'm willing to work for it and I'm willing to look in unusual places for it. But I want to live my purpose, feel more vibrant, and live a full life so that at the end of the day, I can say I kind of did something while I was here.
So let me ask you this. When you decided that this was going to be your line of work, you went through your healing and you wanted to give that to others. What was one of the first clients where you saw the transformation? You felt that surge of joy and adrenaline because you helped them. Do you remember? Was there a moment like that?
Oh, thankfully, it's been since I was 19.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
be honest, yeah. And I started, my first modality was energy work and Reiki. And it's so funny, this memory just came back up the other day. So I'll share it here because it wants to be shared clearly. It was my first professional client ever. I was 19. You know, it's when you're a kid, you're brand
Uh,
new at something. I got my first business cards and I had like hung them on message boards and things. And it was my first stranger who had found my business card and booked a Reiki session with me, which, if listeners don't know what Reiki is, it's a kind of energy work. So it's a hands-on healing that you're oftentimes not even touching the person, just kind of holding space above them. And I had this gentleman come in and he got on my massage table and I took the sheet back, and on his torso, his back was covered in scars. He had endured the most horrific child abuse with belts and chains, and there were cigarette burn marks on his back.
mm,
And I immediately at 19 just I could feel overwhelmed, right? Like how do I hold this? I'm not trained in this. I don't know how to hold this degree of trauma in a person. And all I could do was just to stay with it. And I remember I had tears coming down my eyes, and my client was face down, and I had tears. And I remember trying to hold myself so that my tears wouldn't drip on him.
yeah,
And I was holding presence above him, and I could feel Reiki, which is it's universal life force energy. It just feels like love to
yeah,
me. And I could feel it turn on and move through my hands and into his body. And his body was having a very physical reaction, releasing, releasing. And thankfully, I went to my mentor at the time and she was able to support me through that. And I remember going to her and going, I can't do this. Like, I'm not ready to do this. I don't know how. I don't have the specific training. And she was like, yes, you do.
yeah,
Your soul knows what to do.
yeah.
And it acted. So that was my first client
Wow.
at 19.
Yeah.
And it's just been ever after an absolutely fascinating, could not ask for a more fulfilling career.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, of everything that you've done, accomplished, evolved to, what are you the happiest about?
Definitely presently, it's mentoring other healers.
Yeah.
I'm kind of at that age. I'm creeping up on 52, like
Hmm.
everybody else in your
Yeah.
life. And it's so funny. I used to set 50 when I was a kid. Set 50 was like the age,
Uh-huh.
the age. And now that it's around the corner, I just like God. It's exactly as I thought it would be, and kind of more at the same time. Is you really step into a place where your whole focus shifts to nurturing others,
Mhm.
like who is going to come after you, who's going
Yeah.
to carry the work forward, who's going to expand the work out. So that's what I'm really excited about now,
Yeah.
kind of on the back nine,
Yep. That's
holding
it.
space and supporting other people to do the same work.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Mm, I don't know. I'm a human design projector, so it's very hard for us to see ourselves.
Okay. Okay.
um,
I can shift into another question. I get it. I totally get it.
it's a potent question for me to think about. I don't know if you know much of human design, if you've heard of human design.
Yeah.
Have you? Have
Yeah.
you?
Uh-huh.
Do you know
Yeah.
your type?
I don't. I was just. I don't know if this is akin to it, but there was a book that I got into. It was enormous about kind of our DNA and how all of it kind of there's levels of it that are predestined and that are a part of how we can make into who we are. So I don't know exactly, but I was really wrapping my head around that kind of a hardcore personality test. I mean, I tend to be an extrovert, with little bits of introversion. It's interesting because listening to Dolly Parton talk about how she rolls and what she does, I feel totally, absolutely akin to the way she rolls, like her kind of philosophy. So anyway, no, I'm deviating, but I don't know the exact code. No.
I would love to know your design. Yeah, you can run your chart online if you go to Human Design Chart and run it. It's really incredibly fascinating. I use it quite a bit in my work, and I am a human design projector, and we're a minority type. We're only 20% of the population. I'm a mental projector, which is about 3% of the population. And one thing that's very unique about projectors is we can't see ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can't see ourselves. And also, I am what's called a five line too. And five lines are, among other things, here to be kind of the mirror and projector board.
Yeah.
So we are, a lot of times when I'm working with people, it is their projections that I'm working with, and I can kind of be a blank slate and canvas for people.
Yeah.
And so all the time, people are kind of making up stories around how they see me in
Yeah.
order to do our work together. But it's one of my own blind spots is I really don't know how to define
Yeah.
myself.
That's fascinating in itself right there. So let me ask you a final question. If you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one event in human history, be there and watch it. It won't create a tear in time, but you could just see the fascination unfold. What would you love to have seen with your own eyes?
I would have loved to be there in the company of Jesus and Mary Magdalene and the apostles
Yeah.
and see what really went down.
Uh-huh, exactly. That's it. That's the key. So if anyone wants to reach out, they have questions, they want to hire you, any of the healing modalities, how do they get involved? Where do they go?
My platform is at Microdosing for Healing. It's microdosingforhealing.com. We have lots of resources on there about our global community, training programs, podcast, and ways to reach out.
Okay. This has been so good. Thank you so much. It was so great to meet you. Best of luck. Keep spilling the light out of the world. We need it for sure.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.